My bank app buzzed while I was standing in line at a gas station in Plano, Texas, buying coffee out of habit, not desire. I was half awake, running on routine, thinking about the safe boring things that defined my life. Mortgage paid early. Bills automated. No surprises. That was the deal I made with adulthood. The alert was a past due notice. Past due amount. Immediate attention required. For a moment I stared at the screen like it was a glitch. Our accounts did not go past due. That was my job. Then I saw the amount and my stomach dropped. I left the coffee on the counter, walked back to my car, and sat there gripping the steering wheel like I needed it to keep my life from sliding apart. Inside the app was a version of my finances I did not recognize. Repeating charges. Loans I had never opened. Missed payments that felt intentional, not accidental. Small enough to hide at first, then larger, more aggressive. It was not chaos. It was a system. My first thought was identity theft. It was the clean explanation. Impersonal. Random. Then I saw the name attached to one of the accounts. Lauren M. Kendall. My wife's maiden name. A name she had not used since we got married. Seeing it there felt like hearing someone whisper a private nickname in public. I called the bank from the driver's seat. After verification, the woman on the line got careful. She explained there were multiple accounts linked to my profile. Some in my name. Some under an alternate name I recognized immediately. Then she said something that made my chest tighten. Some of them have you listed as a co-applicant. I asked her to repeat it. She did. Calm and final. I asked what kind of accounts. Personal loans. Credit lines. A retail card. A lender that sounded like it existed to trap people. Then she mentioned a business credit account. Neither of us owned a business. I asked if there were collections. She said yes. Then she said the account had entered pre-legal action. Not immediate. Just close enough to make it real. I hung up and sat there while the gas station lights reflected off my windshield. The word garnishment surfaced in my head anyway. Even if it wasn't on paper yet. Like I was reckless. Like I had failed at the one thing I built my identity around. I drove home without remembering the drive. The house looked normal. Clean porch. Fresh mulch. A wreath still hanging because Lauren liked how it looked. Normal on the outside, like nothing was rotting underneath. Inside, the house was quiet. Lauren was still asleep upstairs. I opened my laptop and pulled credit reports. The debts were real and recent. Hard inquiries. Addresses that were not ours. A mailbox store. An apartment complex I had never seen. A phone number I did not recognize. That number mattered. It meant someone else existed inside this story. I went into Lauren's office. I had never searched her things before. I opened her desk drawer and found a folder shoved inside like it had been hidden in a hurry. Letters addressed to Lauren M. Kendall. Final notices. Payment plans. A civil filing. An attorney's letter. This was not one mistake. It was ongoing. Buried inside was a copy of my pay stub. Not filed properly. Just hidden. Behind it was a form with my name and a checked box for spouse consent. I sat in her chair, holding paper that felt heavier than it should. My brain tried to soften the truth. Maybe she was ashamed. Maybe she was fixing it quietly. But the documents told a different story. This was structured. Planned. I heard footsteps upstairs. I put the folder back, not ready yet. I went to the kitchen and tried to breathe normally. Lauren came down wearing one of my old hoodies, looking relaxed. She smiled and asked if I was okay because I looked pale. Her voice was warm and familiar, which made it worse. I told her I did not sleep well. She kissed my cheek automatically and started making coffee. I watched her move like everything was stable. I asked if she had any loans. She paused for just a moment, then said no. Just normal credit cards. I asked if she had used her maiden name recently. She looked at me more carefully then and asked why. I said I got a weird bank alert. I watched her shoulders loosen slightly when I blamed the system. She said banks mess up all the time. Her phone buzzed on the counter. She grabbed it fast. I saw the contact name for a split second before she tilted the screen away. Sponsor. She smiled again, but it was controlled now. She said she had a meeting and went upstairs, leaving the coffee half finished. I waited until her door closed. Then I went back to her desk and pulled the folder out again. Under the papers was a small black notebook. Inside were dates, amounts, names. A ledger. One line stopped me cold. Payment to sponsor, weekly. Under it was another. Cash withdrawal, meet. I stood there holding that notebook, listening to the house move around me like nothing had changed. That was when I understood the debt was not the real problem. It was a transaction. And I was not the one she was paying. Once you see a ledger, you stop believing in accidents. What made it work was not intelligence. It was confidence. These stories almost never reach lawyers. They rely on people wanting it gone more than they want the truth. They die in shame, silence, or quiet settlements long before anyone starts asking real questions. I did not confront Lauren that day. Not because I was scared of her, but because I finally understood something important. Whatever this was, it had structure. And structure means intent. Intent means preparation. And preparation means she was ahead of me. So I stayed quiet. That silence was not passive. It was strategic. I went through the rest of the day like a man playing a role he suddenly understood was fake. I answered emails. Took calls. Ate lunch without tasting it. All the while, my mind kept circling back to that word. Sponsor. That was not the kind of name you give to a friend. It was not affectionate. It was functional. A role, not a person. Like investor. Like backer. Like someone who expected a return. That night Lauren sat next to me on the couch, laptop open, scrolling through slides for a campaign she said was launching soon. She talked about deadlines and metrics, about how busy things were getting. I nodded and made the right noises. I had become very aware of how easy it was to lie while sounding reasonable. I wasn't the first. I just didn't know it yet. She fell asleep early, curled slightly away from me. When her breathing evened out, I carefully took her phone from the nightstand. I had never touched it without permission before. That felt like crossing a line. Then I remembered she had crossed far worse ones. The phone was locked, but I knew the code. She had never bothered to change it. Trust goes both ways, until it does not. I searched the contact labeled sponsor. It was not a nickname hiding someone obvious. It was a number with no other name attached. No emoji. No sentiment. Just sponsor. The message history wasn't emotional. It was utilitarian. Logistics, not romance. Times. Amounts. Locations. Short confirmations. No affection. No flirting. No words you would expect from an affair fueled by feelings. This was cleaner than that. I scrolled back as far as I could. The earliest messages lined up almost perfectly with the first loan opening. Then the next. Then the next. Every new account was followed by a message confirming funds. Every payment difficulty was followed by a brief exchange and then a solution. It looked like cash flow. Calendar blocks matched the ledger. Photos matched the calendar. Receipts matched the photos. Nothing conclusive alone. Together, it was a map. I slept maybe 2 hours that night. My brain kept replaying our marriage like a transaction timeline. When she quit her first job because it was too stressful. When I told her it was fine and picked up more responsibility. When we upgraded the car. When she wanted the house in a better neighborhood. When she started talking about wanting more, but never defining what more meant. In the morning, I called in sick. Lauren barely noticed. She was already dressed, already on her way to somewhere important. She kissed my forehead and told me to rest. The same tone you use with someone who is useful but currently unavailable. As soon as she left, I started digging properly. I ran the phone number through everything I could legally access. It was registered to a prepaid service. No name. No address. Clean. That alone told me this was not an impulsive relationship. This was someone who planned to stay invisible. Then I checked the business credit account. It was under an LLC I had never heard of. Generic name. No website. No marketing footprint. Registered less than a year ago. The mailing address matched the mailbox store from the credit report. That LLC had one listed officer. Lauren. Not me. Not jointly. Just her. I sat there staring at the screen, realizing my wife had built a financial entity behind my back while using my income as leverage. That was when the word betrayal started to feel too small. This was not just cheating. This was exploitation. I drove to the mailbox store. It was exactly what I expected. Beige building. Fluorescent lights. Rows of identical boxes. I showed my ID and asked if my wife rented a box there. The clerk checked the screen, hesitated, then nodded once. Same maiden name. I asked if she was alone on the account. He shook his head slightly. There's another authorized pickup. He didn't say more, but he didn't need to. On the way home, I noticed something I had not paid attention to before. A car I recognized, not clearly, but enough to trigger instinct. A dark sedan that had been parked near our house more than once. I told myself I was being paranoid. Then I saw it again after 2 turns. It didn't tail me aggressively. It just stayed present long enough for my instincts to start talking. When I slowed down, it slowed down. When I pulled into a grocery store lot, it kept going. I sat there gripping the wheel, heart pounding, understanding for the first time that I was not just uncovering something. I might have stepped into the middle of it. That evening, Lauren was different. More attentive. She cooked dinner. Asked about my day. Sat closer than usual. It felt like a performance correction, like she sensed something had shifted and was adjusting. I played along. Later, while she showered, her phone buzzed again on the nightstand. Sponsor. Short message. Time changed. Location confirmed. I did not read it. I did not need to. Because now I understood the escalation. She was not just hiding debt. She was maintaining an arrangement. Money flowed in. Access flowed out. Stability flowed from me into a system that treated me like a foundation, not a partner. And the scariest part was not that she was cheating. It was that she was calm. Calm meant control. Control meant preparation. And preparation meant that when this finally came apart, she would already be positioned to land on her feet. I lay next to her that night, staring at the ceiling, listening to her breathe, knowing something she thought I did not. The transaction was still active. And I had not yet decided whether I was going to cancel it quietly or burn the whole contract down. The first mistake I made was thinking I was alone in this. The second mistake was thinking sponsor was a network. He was one man with a repeatable pattern. One operator. Same structure. Different lives. The day after I followed the trail to the mailbox store, I took a risk I had been avoiding. I called the number attached to the LLC. I expected nothing. A voicemail. A disconnected number. Something safe. Someone answered. A man. Calm voice. Mid-40s maybe. Polite in the way people get when they do not expect consequences. He did not say his name. He did not ask for mine. He simply asked how he could help. I told him I was calling about an account discrepancy. I kept my voice flat. Boring. Professional. I said the company name and mentioned a billing concern. There was a pause. Not panic. Calculation. He asked which account. That was all I needed to hear. This was not a random operator. This was someone who knew exactly what lived behind that LLC. I said I would follow up by email and hung up before he could ask questions. My hands were steady, which surprised me. Something had shifted. Fear had turned into focus. I spent the next few hours mapping everything out. Dates. Transfers. Travel. Credit openings. Messages. When you put it all on one screen, the picture sharpens fast. The sponsor payments did not spike randomly. They followed a schedule. Weekly. Predictable. Like rent. Like a subscription. Then I noticed something I had missed before. The amounts changed slightly every few months. Not up. Down. That meant renegotiation. That meant leverage. I went back through the credit report again, slower this time. There were inquiries that had not resulted in accounts. Applications denied. Lines that were attempted and rejected. Someone had been pushing for more and hit a limit. That was when I realized the debts were not the core problem. Cash flow was. Lauren was not drowning. She was running short. And when people who rely on arrangements run short, they get desperate. That afternoon, I got a message from a number I did not recognize. It said we need to talk. No name. No explanation. I did not respond. 10 minutes later another message came in. I know you found the ledger. That was the moment my stomach finally caught up with my brain. I asked who it was. The reply came almost immediately. Someone who made the same mistake you're making now. We agreed to meet in a public place. A coffee shop off a busy road. Middle of the day. Cameras everywhere. I showed up early and sat where I could see the entrance. She walked in like she did not want to be seen but also did not care if she was. Late 30s. Tired eyes. The posture of someone who had learned to carry stress quietly. She did not introduce herself. She sat down across from me and looked relieved, like she had been holding something in for a long time. She said she was married too. Or had been. She said her husband had an arrangement with the same man my wife called sponsor. Different terms. Different expectations. Same structure. She had found out the same way I did. Through money. Money always leaves fingerprints. She told me this was not about romance. It was about access. About image. About convenience. Sponsor liked women who came with stability already built. A husband already paying the base costs. Men like me. Men like her husband. She said Lauren was not the first. Probably not the last. She slid her phone across the table. On it were screenshots. Messages. Travel confirmations. Payment schedules that mirrored my own discovery. The same mailbox store. The same LLC structure. Different shell name. She said he rotated them. That was the business. I asked why she was telling me. She said because when she confronted her husband, he panicked. The arrangement collapsed. Sponsor disappeared. The debt stayed. And she was the one left holding the wreckage. She told me she didn't want that to happen to me. She said if I confronted Lauren without leverage, I would lose everything she had already positioned to take. That word again. Positioned. She explained how it ended for her. How quickly assets moved. How documents appeared that she had never signed but somehow authorized. How the story shifted from betrayal to instability to mutual fault. She had been painted as emotional. Unreliable. Vindictive. She warned me that sponsor did not fight openly. He waited. He let people destroy each other. When she left, she gave me one last thing. A name. Not sponsor. The real one. I will not repeat it here, not because I am protecting him, but because it stopped being important once I understood the pattern. He was not powerful because of who he was. He was powerful because of what people allowed him to become. That night, Lauren was unusually affectionate. Not desperate. Not nervous. Confident. Like someone who believed they still had the upper hand. I kissed her back. Held her. Played my part. But inside, the transaction had changed. Because now I knew two things. I was not alone. And I was not the only asset in play. The moment you understand leverage, fear stops being useful. I did not confront Lauren right away. I changed small things first. I moved my direct deposit to a new account she could not access. I froze my credit. I quietly separated utilities and subscriptions that had been bundled under my name. Nothing dramatic. Nothing that would trigger suspicion. Just enough to shift the balance without making noise. Lauren noticed the changes the way someone notices a temperature shift. Not consciously at first. Just a subtle tension. Questions framed as curiosity. A little more checking in. A little more attention. She was recalibrating. Sponsor noticed faster. The messages on her phone increased. Shorter. More frequent. Less polite. Times changed again. Locations moved. There was urgency now. That was my opening. I forwarded copies of the LLC documents to a personal drive. I downloaded every credit agreement tied to my name. I pulled bank statements going back 2 years. I documented everything. Dates. Patterns. Consent forms. I did not need revenge. I needed clarity. Then I did something I never thought I would do. I scheduled a consultation with a lawyer. Not a dramatic one. A quiet office with neutral furniture and a man who listened more than he spoke. I laid everything out. The debts. The forged consent. The shell company. The third-party arrangement. He did not look surprised. He told me this was not uncommon. Not the details, but the structure. Financial infidelity layered over emotional infidelity layered over power imbalance. He told me something that stuck. The person who documents first usually controls the narrative. That night, Lauren finally pushed. She asked if something was wrong. Not casually. Directly. She said I felt distant. She said she felt like I was pulling away. I told her I was tired. She pressed. She said we should talk. She said she felt like I was shutting her out. I looked at her then, really looked. The calm face. The practiced concern. The woman who had turned our marriage into an asset class. I told her we would talk soon. She did not like that. I saw it in the way her jaw tightened. Control does not like delays. 2 days later, sponsor made a mistake. He contacted me directly. Not through Lauren. Not indirectly. A clean message. Polite. Almost friendly. He said he understood there had been some confusion and wanted to clear things up man to man. That confirmed everything. He thought I was an obstacle, not a participant. I did not respond. Instead, I forwarded the message to my lawyer. Within hours, things escalated. Lauren came home early. Her energy was different. Not warm. Not calm. Focused. She sat across from me and said we needed to talk now. She admitted parts of it. The debt. The stress. The pressure. She framed it as survival. As a mistake that got out of hand. She said sponsor was helping. She said she was trying to protect us. She did not mention love. She did not mention sex. She talked about money and opportunity and timing. That told me everything I needed to know. I told her I knew about the LLC. The mailbox. The consent forms. The ledger. Her face changed then. Not guilt. Assessment. She asked what I wanted. I told her I wanted the truth. She told me enough to think she was being honest without giving me anything that would hurt her. She said sponsor was an investor. A fixer. Someone who helped people like her get ahead. She said it was transactional but not emotional. She corrected herself mid-sentence, then kept going like it never happened. I asked her if she loved him. She did not answer. I asked her if she loved me. She said of course. That was when I realized the conversation was over. The next morning, my lawyer filed. Not for divorce. Not yet. He filed to dispute the debts. To halt any move toward garnishment. To establish fraudulent consent. To create a record. That record changed everything. Sponsor went quiet. Lauren panicked. She cycled through emotions fast. Anger. Fear. Bargaining. She accused me of betrayal for involving lawyers. She said I was destroying her future. She said I was overreacting. I listened. Calm. Silent. Because the power had shifted. For the first time since this started, she did not know what was going to happen next. And neither did I. That night, she packed a bag. Said she needed space. Said this was temporary. I did not stop her. When the door closed, the house felt empty but honest. No performances. No transactions happening in secret. I sat alone in the quiet and understood something painful and clean. The marriage had already ended. I had just been the last one to receive the notice. Silence feels different when it is no longer temporary. The first week after Lauren left, the house felt too large, like it had been designed for a life that no longer existed. I slept on my side of the bed out of habit, woke up reaching for someone who was not there, then remembered that the reaching itself had been part of the transaction. Affection on schedule. Reassurance on demand. I had been paying into a system that rewarded consistency, not connection. The legal process moved slower than my emotions. Collections were paused. Several accounts were flagged. The word fraud started appearing in official language, not just in my thoughts. It felt validating and empty at the same time. Validation does not give you your years back. Lauren called once. Just once. She did not apologize. She explained. She said she never meant to hurt me. She said things spiraled. She said sponsor promised security, leverage, options. She said she felt trapped between the life she wanted and the one she had. I listened. Then I asked one question. If it had worked, would you have told me? She did not answer. That was the answer. The woman from the coffee shop texted me a few weeks later. She said sponsor had resurfaced under a different LLC. Different name. Same pattern. She said she was moving on. Starting over somewhere smaller. Quieter. She wished me luck. I wished her the same. Lauren's lawyer contacted mine. The tone was measured. Cooperative. Strategic. It confirmed what I already knew. She had planned for this possibility. She had contingencies. Exit ramps. What she had not planned for was me waking up. The debts tied directly to her actions were separated. The house went on the market. We did not fight over furniture or photos. We divided things cleanly, like people dissolving a partnership instead of mourning a relationship. Friends asked what happened. I kept it simple. Money issues. Trust issues. The truth was too complex for casual conversations. Some nights I wondered if she ever loved me. Other nights I realized that question no longer mattered. Love that functions like a spreadsheet is not love. It is management. The hardest part was not the betrayal. It was accepting how well it fit into the life we had built. I had valued stability over intimacy. Predictability over curiosity. I had been proud of being reliable, of being low maintenance, of being easy to build on top of. I made myself a perfect foundation. Someone else decided to build something else on it. Months later, the house sold. I moved into a smaller place closer to work. Fewer rooms. Fewer echoes. I started noticing how quiet my mind felt when I was not constantly maintaining someone else's vision of the future. Sometimes I think about Lauren. Not with anger. With clarity. I think about how easily love turns into logistics when both people stop asking uncomfortable questions. I do not know where she ended up. I do not check. That is part of ending the transaction. What I do know is this. If your marriage feels efficient but empty, ask why. If stability is the only thing you are offering, ask what it is being used to buy. And if everything feels calm all the time, ask who is benefiting from that calm. Because the most dangerous betrayals do not arrive with chaos. They arrive fully funded, neatly documented, and already approved. I still stop at gas stations in the morning. I just don't buy coffee I don't want anymore. Thanks for watching. If this story made you think, subscribe. More coming soon.